Hello and welcome to another review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Beam me up. The name of the episode of Strange New Worlds, episode 4, is Memento Mori, and it's about a game of cat and mouse between Starfleet and a hidden enemy. The episode opens with Pike giving a speech over the intercom regarding Starfleet Remembrance Day. The ship, actually the Enterprise itself, is headed towards Synopsis 3 to drop off some air filters for the colonist. And La'an does not want to wear the pendant at the beginning of the episode because she thinks that Starfleet Remembrance Day isn't a holiday it's a stupid idea to her because who's dead is dead and there's no bringing them back. So when they arrive at Synopsis 4, they notice that there's no life signs, and also the colony has been destroyed or at least taken damage. So they send an away team down to the surface of the planet to check what's there. And what they find is that the colony is completely empty, everything's destroyed, and there is blood stains on the ground in the central area, but no bodies. A colonist ship actually did survive had survivors, and so that hooked up to the Enterprise, and the survivors were able to go over. But the problem is the Enterprise can't put up its shields whenever it's connected to another ship. So the Gorn came out from behind the planet and blew up the colonist ship. Luckily nobody was on it, but also the Enterprise took massive amounts of damage, so its weapon systems were messed up. And La'an realizes in the moment that the ship's being attacked that it must be the Gorn who are attacking, because a little girl described monsters coming out and taking people away. And so La'an realized as the Enterprise was being attacked that it was the Gorn. La'an's advice to Pike is to back away and regather themselves, as the Gorn just keep pressing the attack when they have the advantage. That's just naturally how they operate. And so the captain takes her advice and moves back some, or has the ship move back some. Upon further examination in a meeting, the Enterprise only has one torpedo that'll work, and also limited phasers, the phasers won't work either, the phaser banks. And so the team has to try to discuss how they will defeat the Gorn, but what ends up happening is La'an talks to the crew like there's no hope because the Gorn don't stop. Pike has to pull her over to the side after the meeting and just encourage her to not be so pessimistic that it ruins the crew's morale as they're in this fight, because they need everybody fully 100% in it. And it's a nice scene because Pike isn't overbearing as his captain, but he is able to, help the crew members adjust their attitude when needed, without having to take it to the next level. So we get to see some great leadership from Pike. La'an basically tells Pike that she's no longer gonna, just vocalize that all, but she's also not gonna lie. And Pike says the line, "Best miracles are born of truth." And he says, "We need a miracle right now." So I thought that was a cool line of dialogue. The crew gets an idea to take the ship into not into a black hole, but into the dust cloud surrounding a black hole, so that the Gorn sensors won't work. But this also means that the Enterprise sensors won't work. And actually, Spock is able to use the atmospheric sensors on the outside of the ship to make a functional radar. As Pike said, you turn a compass into a radar, so they're able to see the dots going across the screen that are Gorn ships. And it appears for a moment that one of the Gorn ships is headed towards them, but it overshoots. And the Enterprise, so they don't know where the Enterprise is, and the Enterprise maneuvers on top of the Gorn ship and drops their torpedo, the single torpedo, and it crashes into the ship, and the Gorn ship's destroyed. Little did the crew know that Gorn ship was just sent out there to be destroyed, so that the remaining Gorn ships, the remaining 3, would know the location of the Enterprise. At this point, Pike actually wants to send 2 crew members out in the Galileo to see if there's a way they could figure out how to destroy the Gorn, and La'an and Spock choose to go out there. But La'an knows that there may be information in her head that will help them to defeat the Gorn, and so her and Spock perform a mind meld, which again, is pretty scary because what she's remembering is when she was a kid, the Gorn coming and taking her and her brother to a breeding planet to hunt them as sport. But in that flashback, basically in the mind meld, she realizes that the Gorn communicate through light. And so what the plan is, once they get out of the mind meld, is to flash lights at this larger ship, telling them that the smaller ship had been compromised. And whenever that's the case, then the stronger ship blows up the smaller ship. And their strategy works. The smaller ship does get blown up by the other ship. But now there's still one massive Gorn ship left, so what does the crew do? What the crew ends up doing is dumping all the cargo, including the generator that was blowing up or going to blow up, and dumping all that as they're fleeing the Gorn ship, and then by flying around the black hole to slingshot off of it to be farther away from the Gorn. So basically the Gorn will assume that they blew up in a crash or blew up in an explosion by getting too close to the black hole, but really they'd be slingshotting around and being out of danger. So their plan works. It's a really cool scene, seeing the Enterprise go, around the black hole and out. And it's cool too that they were able to beat the last Gorn ship without even having to destroy it. The episode ends with Pike giving a speech and encouraging La'an to basically saying that if we meet the Gorn again, we'll be more prepared. And then that's kind of the tease for the future episodes, so that they're going to interact with the Gorn much more. So I'm kind of excited to see that because the Gorn are sweet enemies. So what do I think of the episode? I think the episode was fantastic. I loved the submarine warfare, where basically the Enterprise didn't know where the other ships were and the other ships didn't know where the Enterprise were. It's not like they could just overpower them with more advanced phasers or anything, because the Enterprise actually at a disadvantage the whole entire time. So it's also cool to see the crew react to stressful situations and see who holds it together and who doesn't. It's cool that Pike was able to show his skills under pressure in a situation being a captain, and also it's cool to see him respectfully correcting an officer and helping them to be the best they can be. I really like the La'an's character growth. By the end of the episode, she's wanting to remember her brother, and she's honored to remember her brother, whereas at the beginning of the episode, of course, she didn't even want to celebrate the holiday or take a day to remember those who she's lost personally. But by the end of the episode, she's doing better, and I think that's great too, because her backstory I felt like it was just like one of those classic, like, oh, as a child, like, this happened to me and it still scarred me, and I feel like that wasn't adding much depth to her character. But now that I've seen her overcome that, it's kind of cool because she's had some character growth and character development. The only thing I didn't like was the dialogue between Uhura and I can't remember, Himmer. Yeah, was a little bit cheesy at times, especially the Uhura lines. Modern Trek struggles sometimes to write dialogue that's not modern, if that makes sense. Like it would be dialogue that they have in the future. But besides that, it was probably the best episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, so I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I wouldn't give it a perfect, because there's still some things that were a little bit ridiculous, like as far as them communicating, but it was a phenomenal episode. So I hope you like this review. I hope you remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you do. And if you don't have to subscribe, and you don't have to like. You can even downvote this video. So, but whatever you want to do, I'm all for it. And there will be more videos coming out soon. So stay tuned, guys.